Hi, Lacrosse fans. Welcome back to episode number 9 of the Sticks and Picks Lacrosse podcast presented by Lacrosse Unlimited. Lacrosse Unlimited provides the best lacrosse equipment, apparel, and lacrosse footwear since 1990. Check out lacrosseunlimited.com for all your lacrosse needs. I'm your host, Will Petchnig, alongside co-host Jake Fox. In today's episode, we talk about playing minor lacrosse in a growing minor association in Ontario, winning 3 straight Mann Cup championships, and highlight some of his career achievements. Here we go. He's an Nepean Knights minor lacrosse alumni, a graduate of Robert Morris University. He's a 3-time Mann Cup champion, a President's Cup champion, the 2015 NLL Sportsmanship recipient, one of the best lacrosse players from Ottawa, Ontario, and current player for the San Diego Seals of the NLL and Century 21 Peterborough Lakers of the MSL. Please welcome Kyle Buchanan.
Hey, boys.
Lucky, what's going on, bud?
Not too much. The usual lockdown here, so hopefully it's ending soon because I'm going a bit stir crazy with a 2-year-old at home here.
I was going to say, the little one doing all right?
Yeah, she's good. We got actually another one due July 16th, so that's coming up here quick. But otherwise just basically making my backyard a playground so that I can just sit there while she buzzes around out there.
That's it's definitely exciting, and especially adding to your family, and I think it's going to be exciting times for you. So we're going to start talking about your lacrosse career here and how you got involved with the game. I know you grew up playing in Nepean minor lacrosse, where I did as well. Can you talk to us about how you got involved with the game of lacrosse?
Yeah, for sure. As most people know, when I was growing up, lacrosse in Nepean wasn't necessarily a hotbed. There was kind of a really small community, and I came from a hockey and baseball family where, my mom's side of the family had pro hockey players, pro baseball players. And I was kind of the first one to take the leap to lacrosse when I was about 10 or 11, I think 10 years old. And my best buddy at the time, Pat Tallis, was playing lacrosse. He came from Coquitlam. So he kind of asked me to play one summer. And then, from there, it was a bit better than standing at second base. A lot of scoring, a lot of speed. And I just loved it right away. So that was kind of my first introduction. And then my family kind of followed along, and Nepean's been growing ever since.
Talk about like you said, Nepean wasn't really big like it is now. Nepean is constantly, one of the top teams in all of Canada now, and they've grown their program exponentially. You said already that Nepean was small. Like, how many kids were you looking at compared to now?
Well, I remember we had to play, it was interesting because we had to play house league in order to play competitive, which was really interesting because, all the big centers never did that. And I remember telling guys that I'd played hockey against, in Toronto at tournaments, they're like, you guys got to play house league at home. And that was just kind of the way it was. And I think the purpose of that was just to grow it, right? You bring more buddies in and they can play with you in their house league games. And then, certain nights of the week, we'd have our competitive practices. So we'd only have like 6 or 7 house league teams. So if you look at those numbers, right, it's only 120 guys, let's say, playing in Nepean minor at my age. And then you pick your 20 guys from there to go play competitive. So it was interesting. But, I will say from the time we were 10, we had a pretty good team. We had all our hockey guys come together and play on that team. But we were also super fortunate that the Cowies were involved, being from Peterborough. Gerard had won Mann Cups. That's the father. Gerard Cowie had won Mann Cups, I think, in the 80s. And his sons had played forever. So, I was fortunate to have a coach who actually really knew what they were talking about from day one. Most kids in those small areas or small markets had dads or whoever coaching. And, so I was able to learn from someone who knew what they were talking about.
What was minor like for you? Because I know, like, when I was in minor and Will was in minor, we had, like, almost like a regular season where, like, you had, like, scheduled games every year where you would do the trip to Akwesasne. The next day you'd play in Ganawake, and Nepean was doing vice versa. What was it like for you? Was it basically just tournament play for the most part?
Yeah, exactly. We didn't have a regular season at all. It was just tournaments. We, I remember the first tournament of the year, I believe, usually we'd have like an exhibition game with Akwesasne at the start or something like that, maybe Gloucester too. And then we'd, first tournament of the year was always Peterborough, Laker Classic or Lift Lock Classic, whatever it was called back then. But So that was always our first tourney of the year. And then from there, we traveled almost every weekend of the summer, as you guys know, kind of doing the same thing too, is being in Ottawa and playing lacrosse, you literally got 0 weekends at home. So I'm just used to that now. But it was all tournament play. And then obviously provincials. And when we became A in Pee Wee, then you do the qualifiers and all that. And but again, we had a pretty good squad. A lot of hockey guys. Not many guys continue to play lacrosse after. I think I was one of the only ones my age. But we ended up being A twice, winning 2 bronze medals, and we're ranked number one year, and had a stinker in the semifinal against Orangeville, but they went on to win. So I guess it was better that way.
Yeah, no, certainly. And you guys were one of the better Nepean teams, especially when I was a young kid. I think in Tyke, we always looked up to you guys and how strong your teams were. And I do remember the Cowies playing and stuff like that. So, but times have certainly changed in Nepean, and now they're starting to do a lot more exhibition games and tournament play as well. And most of the teams are at A lacrosse level. So we're going to go into your junior lacrosse career, and you were fortunate enough to play for your hometown junior A Ottawa Titans when they had a team. Can you kind of talk about that experience and what it's like to play for your hometown team? Because a lot of Ottawa area kids now don't get the chance to do that.
Yeah, for sure. I think, there was only a couple of years there where we were fortunate to have a team, but, being from the Ottawa area, at least when I was playing, and again, you guys can probably attest to this, that you kind of had to be a bit of a suitcase if you wanted to play at the top level, right? And so I was a perfect example of that. My rookie year, I played junior B for Nepean. Callum Crawford was on that team. Cowies, we were pretty good that year. We ended up losing in playoffs, and I went to Peterborough and played junior A for their playoff run. We lost in the semis to Whitby in game 7. So, I was already part of 2 teams in my rookie year. And then the next year, Ottawa got a team. So I got traded back to my hometown team. We were able to get on a coach by the name of Pete Vipond, who was a legend, NHL player, lacrosse player. He did it all. And one of my favorite coaches to this day, still just super old school, and basically tell you to go out and play, but call you out if you're being soft or if, you're not giving the effort he wanted. So we played a couple years there in Ottawa, and actually our first year, we were pretty decent. We had a lot of older guys that played junior hockey with us as well. And Mickey Gilchrist, Brendan Sayers, and names that you may know. They were really good players too, and they went on to have good hockey careers. But we ended up losing. We were ranked whatever 8th was, or however the playoffs worked, and Six Nations was first, and we ended up taking them to 6 games. We were up 2-0 early in the series, and thought, oh boy, here we go. But so that was a pretty cool year in Ottawa, and I think brought some excitement to the game in the area. And then another year we were maybe 1-12 or 13. And that was, I guess, 2 years later. And I got shipped out to New West for the Minto. That was in 2007. So I was really fortunate enough to, go out West and see what lacrosse out there is all about. Completely different game, especially going to the hardwood right away. I didn't know what was going on, but it was good. Played with some amazing players in New West, Jordan McBride, Kevin Crowley, Midski. We were pretty good. Curtis Manning. I'm sure there's some more guys I'm missing there too. We were pretty good. And then my last year ended up coming back to close to home and living an hour away in Akwesasne. And all the Thompson brothers on that team, some more good players. And we ended up losing that year to Orangeville in the semis as well. But again, pretty big suitcase, but I got to play with so many different players and under a ton of different coaches in different environments. And I think it really sets the stage. And a lot of Ottawa guys did that at that time, who were going pro. Zawicki played in Aurelia. Callum went all over the place a little bit too. And guys kind of followed suit after that.
No, I think you said it well. Back in those times, especially with how the junior A system went, there was a lot of teams coming in and out, a lot of teams transferring places, and you kind of got caught in the midst of it. What were some big differences, strictly, let's talk between going from Ottawa and then coming back and playing for Akwesasne, which was basically the same team, but you went from Ottawa to playing on the res at the Turtle Dome. And I would say probably the fan base was probably a big thing too.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really cool because I actually lived in Cornwall that summer. I had 2 of my buddies with me, Scott Cow being one, Brad Barber, another guy. We all lived together in Cornwall, and we're working there and living nice and close to the rink so we could go shoot and all that stuff. And I remember saying to someone it was the first time I ever did like in-game interviews. I don't know if you guys remember in Akwesasne in the Turtle Dome, they had this like little barn thing in the corner, like a portable basically. And in between periods, I'd run in there and I'd do like a radio interview really quickly and then come back out. And I thought that was such a cool thing. And, I could just imagine all the elders sitting on their porch and sitting at home and listening on the radio to how the junior Indians were doing. And so that was the first time I had some experience with that. And I thought it was really cool. And I remember after the games too, I'd get pulled aside by older guys and basically breaking down my game. I could have had gone 3-3 and they're still telling me ways to do things. And, again, I think that's such a cool experience playing on the res and learning just a different approach to the game, and whether it's cultural, whether it's pre-game stuff, in-game stuff. I just learned so much that summer kind of about myself too. And, you're viewed differently when you go on the res for the first time to play for a summer. And so it was a really cool experience, but definitely learned a lot.
You also, like you mentioned earlier, you went one summer out and played for New West Salmon Bellies, arguably up there for one of the historic junior A franchises. What were some of the big differences you saw from Ontario and BC Junior A?
I thought it was pretty physical out there. I think in Ontario we were getting kind of progressive with like the transition style guys. So guys were really skilled, playing defense. Offensive guys almost could play defense in Ontario, run the ball, score in transition, kind of play two ways still. Whereas when I went out to BC, I thought there was more like specific roles. A guy can barely cradle, but he's a decent defender. Doesn't need mesh in his stick, but is still out there every shift. So that was a significant difference. I thought some bigger boys out there in BC. Obviously, I'm not big now, and I was a lot smaller then. So you can imagine that was a bit of a, I guess, culture shock, if you want to call it that, for me when I went out there. And just knowing the guys, like I always considered myself like a student of the game. And, I always tell the story that at qualifiers, I'd say, Mom, give me $10. I want to have a slice of pizza and iced tea, and I'll stay here all day and watch games. And so when I went out to BC, I didn't know anybody or much about anybody because we couldn't watch too much lacrosse out there at that time. So I think that worked in my favor, and then in some ways, but also didn't in other ways, because I wasn't sure on goalies or defenses or players and all that. So it took some time and some adjustment, but I always say to young guys now from Ontario, go out west and play a summer, whether that's junior or senior or whatever. Like the experience is so much different and really cool.
You played in the Minto too with the Salmon Bellies, right?
Yeah.
How was that? What was that experience?
That one stings a bit. That one still stings a bit. We were the host team, and we had an unbelievable round robin, beat Six Nations, and then we go to the semifinal. We ended up losing. I scored with about a minute left in the round robin against Burnaby, and I was called in the crease. They went down and scored. Where there was a couple minutes left or whatever. And because of that loss, we ended up having to play Six Nations in the semifinal and not getting a bye to the final. And then we played Six Nations, and we kind of controlled the game, a lot of it. And then we took a couple penalties late. A good teammate of mine, friend of mine, Sean Evans, sold a call. Believe it or not, he sold a call with about 2 minutes left, put them on the power play. They tied it up, and then they scored to win with literally 0.0 on the clock. Not only at that time, but it was on our backup goalie, because our starter and maybe MVP of the tournament was called for his gloves as well. So it was a pretty tough Minto. It would have been nice to win in front of a home packed crowd at Queen's Park Arena in New West, but that one stings a little bit still.
Classic Shawnee, right?
Classic. Hey, I've been on the good side of it for a lot of years now, so I'll let him go with that one.
Yeah, certainly. You definitely have been on the good side, that's for sure. We're going to talk about your NCAA lacrosse career here. I know field lacrosse wasn't big in Ottawa when you were growing up. How did you get involved with the game of field? Was it the same type of thing? And what went in your decision of choosing Robert Morris University?
Yeah, I always wanted to play. I mean, at the time, NCAA was the only like next step to lacrosse, really, right? Unless you were going to go right to pro. And so that was a goal of mine all the way growing up. Was I going to play hockey? I played junior A hockey. Was I going to go for hockey or lacrosse? And I had a lot of dual scholarship offers to go D3 to play both. And then I just thought, I should probably try to play Division I, whatever that might be, hockey or lacrosse. And lacrosse presented a few more options for me. But playing field lacrosse, I'd never really played other than at high school, which is a joke in Ottawa. It's literally your buddies who've never played lacrosse just coming out and two-handing guys because you're allowed to do it, they thought. So that was a bit of a joke. And so I'll fast forward a little bit, but my first game in the NCAA was against number 3 North Carolina. And I remember lining up on a wing against Ryan Flanagan, and he's like 6'4", and he's got a 6-foot stick. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what did I get myself into? But that was a pretty wild experience. But Robert Morris was interesting. I actually signed 2 letters of intent prior to that. One with Canisius when I was 17. And, I just came home from the trip. I signed it. I was all excited and close to home, all those things. And then I just kind of thought, well, I have to give up hockey now, and I'm only 18. And am I really ready to step into the NCAA? I was a small guy. I thought I could use some time to develop mentally, physically, all that stuff. So I kind of told Randy Mearns that I didn't think it was the right time. And so made that decision. And then I signed another one to Stony Brook, the same class. It was supposed to be Jordan McBride, Kevin Crowley, and myself going together there at the same time. So that obviously would have been a pretty cool experience. Those boys did pretty well for themselves. But I didn't do very well on my SATs. I didn't really care about school too much at that time, which was, in hindsight, the silliest thing. You don't realize that impact of the decisions you make when you're, 16, 17, they can have on your life. So I ended up not being able to go there when they switched coaches to Rick Soul. Lars Tiffany went to Brown, and with the grades not being able to get to Stony Brook, I couldn't get into Brown, as you can imagine. So, and then Robert Morris came my last year of junior. I got to play my last years of hockey, last years of lacrosse. And I saw the coach, and actually my 2 best friends who went to Robert Morris, Kyle Matisse and Kevin Brownell, were all recruited in the same game. We were playing in a game in Burlington. Bear Davis approached us all after the game and said, we're a new program. You guys would have a chance to step in right away and play, and love you to come visit and all that kind of stuff. So we did, and we went through, and it was kind of my last choice in a sense, right? Because I was already 19, 20 years old, but ended up being the best thing I've ever done. We ended up having a pretty good run at Robert Morris, and again, met some lifelong friends there, and guys now who have, 10 to 12 NLL guys went to Robert Morris as well. So a lot of Canadians ended up going there, and had a good contingent, and we had some fun. So it was a great school.
Were you recruited strictly by box?
Yeah, exactly. Good question. I never played field, as I said, other than high school. I went to like 2 recruiting tournaments with the Ottawa Nemesis or whatever it was at the time. But yeah, just strictly junior A box.
Wow. I mean, like you kind of said, nowadays kids are. I remember I used to travel 4 hours, practice with Edge, and then drive home that night. You also know my parents; they're nuts. But you guys were kind of the starting point to Bobby Moe becoming a Canadian hotbed, and now obviously, including yourself, Kyle Matisse, Tyler Digby, more recently, I guess Tyson Gibson. What has led Bobby Moe to kind of, you think, become this Canadian hotbed and really rise through the ranks of NCAA?
Yeah, I think it's a combo of thing. I think Bear Davis saw it at first as like a hotbed that's untouched kind of thing. Like only big name Canadians were going to big schools at that time. There wasn't really, some guys are going D2, D3, playing hockey, doing different things. And I think he saw like an opportunity there and took advantage of that. And then once we started to base our offense kind of around those Canadian guys, and we ended up leading, I think, the NCAA in 2 or 3 years of the 4 I was there in scoring. We weren't that good defensively. But we started to put pieces together, and I think other Canadian guys saw that, and more defensive Canadian guys started going there as well. Luke Magnan, Kevin Neufeld, Mitch Wild. He's obviously defense now, but he was offensive then. But a bunch of different guys saw that as an opportunity to also go in and play. And I think the coaches, both McMinn and Bear Davis, have done an amazing job kind of taking the reins, the ropes off you offensively and kind of letting you do what you want to do. My freshman year, I remember they made us pass lefty and shoot lefty in practice. And then literally about halfway through the year when we got into the games, they're like, all right, whatever, you can just play righty then if you want. So I think, when guys see that, it's cool, right? And if you look at the guys that were go there, not a lot of highly touted guys, but guys who have then, created themselves at the school based on what Robert Morris has done with their, core values and how they create you as a person, as a player, and then gone on to have great professional careers.
What would you say was probably your biggest highlight or something that kind of summarized Bobby Moe for you when you were there?
Hard to say. I think a huge part was my freshman year. We beat Penn State the second or first game of the year. They were ranked in a snowstorm at Robert Morris in overtime. And it kind of like gave us this energy to like, all right, we're actually, we can hang here. And so I think that was like a kicking off point for not only like my career there, but also like Robert Morris lacrosse. And I was just fortunate to be there as a freshman, getting a bit of field time. But yeah, like I think that's the starting point for both the, my career there and Robert Morris lacrosse in general.
I know you kicked off a pretty good NCAA career there, and a few Nepean boys that I'm buddies with, Corson and JP Keeley, have followed suit. And I know JP grew up playing a little bit with your younger brother Connor in box lacrosse, so you've started kind of like the Ottawa legacy there as well. And you mentioned top defenders. My buddy Zach Bryant was a NCAA All-American there as well as a Canadian defender. So Robert Morris is definitely a pretty good school right now, especially for a lot of high-end Canadian talent going there.
Yeah, for sure.
So we're going to get into our this or that. Basically, Jake's going to give you two words or two options, and you got to decide between one or two. You can explain which one you like better, or you don't have to. It's completely up to you.
Perfect.
All right. The first, field or box lacrosse?
Box. I like them both. I think coaching wise, I like field sometimes just because it's, a little more strategy to it, but box is just, it's I love being soaked in sweat after the game and banging around, and I love that stuff, and it's just a little more intense.
Better junior A lacrosse, Ontario or BC?
Ontario all day. I just think there's more skill throughout the league in total.
This is a this or that or that. More memorable Man Cup, 17, 18, or 19?
17, the first one. I think we were down 2 Buzz in New West and strung 4 together, and yeah, guys were beat up. It was a long grind from that playoffs too. We ended up playing 6 or 7 games both series before, so it was a grind.
Better lacrosse player, Tyler Buchanan or Connor Buchanan?
When they were younger, Tyler. When they were older, Connor. That's a political answer there, but Ty was dominant, man. My middle brother Tyler was amazing when he was young. He was really good. And then Connor, as he got older, kind of stuck with it and developed into a pretty good player, playing in Founders and Minto Cups himself.
Would you rather score the game winner or assist the game winner?
That's tough. I mean, score it, I guess. You want to score it. I'm more of probably a passer than a goal scorer, so maybe that's part of that answer, but I guess you want to get it.
All right. Crease diving goal or outside rep?
Ooh, crease dive. I've become a bit of a dunker from behind there. Like, I don't get hit in front, so I'm like Gretzky when he was little. Got to get behind there so no one can touch you.
Daniel Alfredson or Alexei Yashin?
Oh, I don't even like the sense. I'm a Leafs guy. Alfie, probably.
Tim Hortons or Starbucks?
Timmy's.
College football or college basketball?
Basketball.
The Turtle Dome in Akwesasne or Memorial Center in Peterborough?
Oh, that's a tough one. I got to say the Mem Center, just more memories there, but Turtle Dome's a legendary arena.
All right. Chocolate or candy?
Chocolate.
TSN or Netflix?
TSN. I can't even get through 3 episodes of a show. I'd rather watch sports. So right now it's been tough.
Harry Potter or The Hunger Games?
Never seen or read a Harry Potter, nor will I probably. So Hunger Games. J-Law.
Golf or fishing?
Golf all day. I'm dying.
And then the last one, who has better nightlife, Ottawa or San Diego?
Oh, San Diego. Ottawa's got a good little market down there, but San Diego, I mean, it's unbelievable all year round.
Yeah, I definitely can't beat that. Ottawa's only got the summertime market. So we're going to go into your MLL career. I think you started in 2013 with the Rochester Rattlers. Can you talk about the kind of the jump from NCAA lacrosse into the pro lacrosse game?
Yeah, I mean, I only actually never played a game in the MLL, like an actual regular season game until last season. So I played with Rochester for that rookie year out of the supplemental draft or whatever it was. And I only went to 2 games, and I was a healthy both games, but it was still really cool to see, the talent there and how the goalies amazed me. I remember John Galloway was our goalie in Rochester, and at the end of the shoot around, he's telling guys from 12 yards to just like, we're in a semicircle and just let it fly. And I'm like, what a nutcase. Like, what's this guy doing? And he's just stopping everything, like throwing his body in front of anything. I'm like, this guy's got to play later. Like, what is he doing? But I remember thinking, everyone was just bigger, stronger, faster. And again, not being a big guy, but the jump from NCAA to pro, you're now playing against, close to 30-year-old men. And the physicality there was just, way different. So, and then I went on to Ohio Machine with Bear Davis. Never really played a game with them. Again, went to a couple games, played in a couple exhibition games with them, the Ohio Classic against Ohio State. But cool experience, some cool names to be out on the field with. And then last year with Dallas was my first real go at it. And we made a good run at the end. And the young team that I think has a bright future now moved to Connecticut. But some great players there too.
You kind of mentioned also, I like to call that the gear bag special, where they bring you in for a couple practices, you get a full set of equipment, and then just never come back.
Oh yeah, for sure. I got a couple good lids kicking around here. Never seen a game right though.
What was some big differences you saw between? You kind of talked about already, but now that you've got some MLL experience under your belt, what are some big differences you see from that and the NCAA? How big of a jump have you really seen there?
Well, I think kind of similar to Ontario, BC. Like you go to the pros and guys' stick skills, every pole, every LSM, they're threats when they're running the field. I think the NCAA, it's kind of structured and you're kind of tight with your strategies. When you get to the pro level and with the shot clock now, you got to always be on. And I think that's kind of a pretty crazy thing. Not only that, again, the goalies are unbelievable when you get to the pro level. There's only so many pro field teams that, you got to take high quality shots. And with the shot clock in place, it gets tough. So I think that jump from the NCAA to the pros now is just everybody can play. Like everybody is fast and has an amazing stick. So yeah, you got to pick your spots, and you got to be one of the best at both of those to even get a sniff of the field.
Yeah, exactly. And I think your game probably translates very well onto the field. You're a fast guy and you like to score goals as well and make good plays. So I'm sure you'll have a successful career if you continue to choose the field route as well. But we're going to talk about your NLL career right now. You were drafted in the 6th round, 48th overall in 2012 NLL draft to Washington. One of the first Nepean guys to be drafted. I know there's a few before, a couple older names, but kind of the younger generation, kind of talk about that day and what it meant to you and your family.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Like I gotta say, it was kind of a tough day for me. I just had an expectation of, I had a pretty good junior career. I just came off winning a President's Cup with St. Regis, and I just thought, talking to some teams that I was going to go a bit higher. In hindsight, it's kind of irrelevant because you still got to go to a camp and make a team and prove yourself anyway. But that day I was actually coaching at Wilmington College in Ohio, Division III, a startup program. And we had practice at that time, and all the guys went out to practice. Like, Coach, come tell us when you get picked. Come tell us when you get picked. I get into the 4th round and I'm not picked yet. And I go out to practice. They're like, oh, where'd you go? And I'm like, I haven't gone yet. They're like, who's this guy? He's, supposed to be a pro player and all that. So it was a funny day that way, but getting chosen by the Stealth was a dream come true. I ended up moving out there that season. Doug Locker was the GM, which is funny, came full circle because he's now in San Diego doing our color commentary. So, but we ended up going to the finals that year, had a great run. Probably some Hall of Famers on that team. Great players. Kyle Sorensen, actually from Peterborough, was our captain at that time. It was a great team to come into because there's a lot of veteran guys and a couple of young guys just stepped in and kind of filled some roles. But we went to the championship that season and played a neutral site game in Langley the year before Washington moved to Vancouver. And we ended up losing 10-9 to Rochester. So it's funny. Another funny story about that year too, actually. I hadn't played in like maybe 2 months, maybe 3 months. I don't even know. I played like half the games, and we're in shoot around that morning before the championship game in Langley. And Chris Hall comes up to me. He's like, hey, Bucky, you're in tonight. I'm like, excuse me? I haven't played in 3 months. Like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, well, Dutchy's got a sore quad, and we think we can go with 9D guys or whatever it was, and you're going to be in. I'm like, holy, what's going on here? So I ended up playing. I was more of a grocery stick that game, though. I literally had maybe 4 shifts the whole game, but again, my rookie season, being able to play in an NLL championship was pretty special.
Did you go into training camp with kind of like that chip? Because I mean, you've always played with a little chip on your shoulder, but was that like almost, I don't want to say a wake up call, but what did that mean to you? I mean, being that 6th round going into training camp, how much more did that motivate you? And what was your first like?
100%. I mean, I think again, you kind of have this, I don't know, you're knocked down a peg, right? When I went that late, I was knocked down a peg, and then I kind of probably got in the best shape I have ever been in that time between the draft and training camp. So I went in there and I knew, being a smaller guy and making that jump like we talked about in the MLL, the physicality, the speed, everything is a step up. So I knew I had to prove myself being a little guy. And so, going in there, I was probably the strongest I'd been and the heaviest I'd been, which is not much compared to most guys. But, I knew I wasn't going to carry the ball either. So I had to be able to set picks and get in the corners and pick up ground balls. And being a small guy, I remember Dutchy, that training camp, is like, you've been small your whole life. You don't have to change your game, right? Just do it at the next level. Like, you have to. So, and that was the kind of the idea going into it. I was just going to grind and do my best. And it was actually kind of crazy that the last 2 cuts were myself and Jeff Stewicki for that last spot, and who was my childhood idol, right? That's who I watched my whole life. And I ended up getting the last spot on the team. He'd come off an ACL knee injury, and I was fortunate enough they wanted to go in a younger direction, and I took that spot. But really cool to compete alongside him, because I never had my whole life, and that's who I built my lacrosse game around.
What was who were obviously you mentioned Dutchy, but who are guys that really, your first couple of years really helped you develop into, the player you are now? Who are guys that kind of took you under your wing that, helped your game?
Well, I think my rookie year, it was nice to be taken, Dutchy and Bobby Snyder, Lewis Ratcliffe. I mean, I knew Kyle Thornton from playing in Peterborough, so I had a good relationship with him. But the guys that I didn't know were those 3 I mentioned, and kind of just took me under my wing and helped me become a professional. I got healthy scratched early in my rookie season, 4 or 5 games in, and I was kind of moping around, being a baby, and which it wasn't really my style, but I didn't really know how to deal with that type of thing. And they kind of pulled me aside and say, hey, you're going to get another sniff. Be ready for that. Be a good teammate, pump the guys up, give them a good look in practice, all those types of things. And it kind of really helped me get that mindset that it's about the team. It's not about you, and learning how to become a professional. And then my second year, when I got picked up by Philadelphia, I had Tracy Koleski there, who's now still a good friend of mine and coach with us in Peterborough. Really, I learned so much from TK, just kind of how to all of a sudden like turn it on when a game comes, right? He was at his last year of his career and didn't have much left in the tank, and he knew that, and he just competed every night like I've never seen someone compete, right? So having that drive and realizing that it's not just show up and play and enjoy the time with the boys after. It's, if you want to be in the NLL, you got 18 times to bring it, and you better bring it every time.
You later went on to Philly and New England, like you mentioned Philly, and you kind of established yourself in the league and becoming what I believe is one of the most underrated players in the league. Obviously, you have all the guys who get all the hype and all the big names, but you're one of those guys who had developed into one of the top players in the league without really being mentioned too much. What was the big thing that clicked for you in Philly, New England, that kind of turned you into, that guy who's able to, get 4 or 5 points a night and be able to, become that force in the league?
Yeah, I think in my second year in Philly there, I didn't mention Brody Merrill, but Brody was our captain in Philly, and I had Ryan Ward and TK, and then Kevin Crowley was our right side. And I just was able to, number one, gain a bit of confidence because I could carry the ball a little bit more than I had in Washington. So kind of get back to my game a little bit. And they were confident in me. So I think that kind of gave me, I got comfortable playing pro and getting to that level. But learning from guys like Brody, who actually is funny because I room with him in San Diego now, like another thing that's come full circle. That's kind of like the lacrosse world. But, just those guys come up to you after a game or whatever and say, hey, shoot your shot when you get it, right? Or, hey, get in there. They're kind of coaching you as they're playing with you. And I think being someone who, again, was a student of the game, really taking that in and then trying to apply it right away, not the next game, like the next shift, right? Or the next, whatever that might be. And so consistently trying to prove yourself to those guys, I think gave me some confidence that year. And then that kind of led into New England, where again, I got the ball even a little bit more. You're starting to get your rhythm and understanding where you fit in an NLL game, what you're good at, what you're not good at. And, really learning from those guys that you got your job. Don't try and do too much. Just do your job. And that's your role. So if you want to be an everyday NLLer, that's what you got to do.
2015, you were awarded the NLL Sportsmanship Award. What was that like for you? How do you like that?
Yeah, it's cool. I didn't expect that at all. I didn't even know like that was really a thing. I guess I had I think 0 penalty minutes that year in 2 years. So basically running away from everybody. But yeah, I don't know. That was, I think for my family, I think it was one of the coolest things just to be recognized on that level. For me, being in my 3rd or 4th year, I forget what that would have been, my 3rd year, I think. It was just an honor to be nominated because I was nominated, I think, with Halsey, who I had played with in Philly, and Curtis Hodgson, who I had played with in Washington. So 2 guys I really respected and loved both of their games. So that was just the honor itself. I literally didn't think I was going to win at all. I remember going to the ceremony or whatever you call it, just because I thought it was cool. I'd be in the presence of guys who are getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, seeing different coaches, all that different stuff, and seeing guys I hadn't seen in a while. And my name got called, and really, really cool moment to share with my now wife and my family at that time. And always be grateful for, being acknowledged on the level of the entire league.
I got to ask, have you been in a fight yet?
No, I mean, have I been in a fight? I got one in junior in New West. It was more of a wrestling match. And then I guess not really a real fight, no.
Oh, I was just curious. Obviously, now you're with San Diego, and part of that expansion franchise the last few years. Philly, I guess I don't think they were at that point, but what's it like going to the expansion franchise? And you guys have really developed with a young core and good veteran status to become, a really good team in the league. So what's that been like, and how was it like coming into an expansion team?
Yeah, it was a really weird process getting there because I was an unrestricted free agent for the first time, and San Diego just kind of asked, hey, I didn't want to go there. I wanted to stay in the East was my decision there. And I had a newborn and all these different things. But they said, hey, can we fly you out and kind of just give you the tour and talk to you a little bit? And obviously we took that advantage of that opportunity and went out there, and right away I knew Patrick Merrill and Steve Govett, they were going to do a good job. Like those guys, they're winners. They want to win. Super competitive. The coaching staff they put together with Billy Greer and Josh Sanderson, Shooter is someone I obviously looked up to my whole life, being a smaller guy too. And right away I was like, okay, I'm in California here. I got a chance to play in the NLL. And they said, hey, do you want to bring your family out? And my wife was on mat leave at that time. So we were like, okay, when are you going to get the opportunity to move out to San Diego and spend the first year of my daughter's life by the beach? And number one, that was a big part of our decision. But number two was like how great this organization was. Steve Govett and Josh Gross coming over from Colorado Mammoth, they knew all the ins and outs of the business, right? They built Colorado up to have one of the best fan bases, a great arena, great place to play. Guys wanted to go there. And I knew they were going to do the same thing in San Diego. And then, Patrick just told me about some free agents they wanted to go after and how they wanted to build the team. And I was confident we could make a run for it in our first year. Getting later in your career, you start to think about that a lot more, is where am I going to win? You want to win one, obviously. That's why you play. So all those factors went into it. Amazing experience. And I think we were just hitting our stride this season. We got off to a slow start and ended up coming on really strong at the end of the year here again. And we're poised, I think, to make a good run. So kudos to everybody who's done an amazing job there. And I couldn't be happier to be a part of that franchise.
What was it like being a UFA for you? Because I know, again, it's a hard thing in the NLL. You don't get it till I believe you're 30. You're restricted till you're 30. Mm-hmm. So what was that whole experience like? Did you visit other centers? Did you talk to other teams at that time?
No, it was a kind of a weird thing. And, I was with New England at the time, and I just kind of told them that, I'm just going to kind of see what happens come July 1st. And before July 1st, they actually or August 1st, whatever the date is, they traded my negotiation rights to San Diego. So I didn't have to sign in San Diego, but they had kind of first dibs. I could have waited till August 1st and seen if I was going to get any offers. But I just thought I'd hear them out and see the opportunity. And again, I couldn't be happier that we took advantage of that. But it was certainly a weird process because you're never doing that. You know, you're into your career 6-7 years, and all of a sudden you're like, now you got to wait till a certain day to get offers. And where do you want to play? You know, there's all these different things that go into it. But it's certainly a weird process, and it's not actually the most fun. It's not as fun as you'd think it would be, maybe, to like choose where you can play. But yeah, it ended up being a great thing for us, and San Diego is an awesome place.
The last one I have about this is about Patty, because I had Patty as a coach at the Hill Academy.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, and my brother had him in junior. Obviously, it's different when you're coaching, you know, high school kids and they're younger. What's Patty like with the pro teams? How is he as a coach?
I love Patty as a coach. I love him. I think there's just so many levels to him. He's got a constant intensity that like is unmatched, right? Like it's almost like he's playing, and he's so fired up at all times. But what I love about him and our coaching staff in general the most is they have your backs through everything. Not shy to call you out, but you know that it's coming from a spot of like, you're better than this, so I'm going to call you out, right? So I absolutely love it. And I think being one of the older guys, like you said, we kind of have a really young mix and a really old mix kind of. I've been able to kind of have a cool role in that, right? In developing a franchise in San Diego and being a part of different things. And Patty's been a huge part of that, of helping us understand what that means, right? And what it's like to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. And we have an amazing ownership there, amazing leadership group. And Patty's the perfect guy for that job in San Diego, dealing with both veteran guys and the young guys.
Yeah, exactly. He's a great coach, and you guys are going to have a great team for many years to come. We did talk to a few of your teammates just before we move on here. Connor Kelly called Kearney, what do you call him? A bowling ball. Yeah, you call him a bowling ball
body.
And can you confirm whether he's pure muscle and steel like Kearney describes, or is it something else?
He claims he is. I mean, he's pretty strong. He's pretty strong, no doubt. I don't know if he's pure muscle, but he's a bit of a steak. You know, he's just a solid guy. Yeah, he's come a long way too. He's working out hard, and I always tell him. Brody always says to him too, if you beat him in a race, Brody's going to retire. If Kearney beats him in a race, so. That's a good little aside there.
Do you trust him as the emergency goalie? Because I remember when you guys were in town, he suited up and he was the emergency goalie.
Honestly, it couldn't have been a better guy, right? He played hockey goalie, and like he's not bad. He's not bad. He made a couple saves on me in warm up, and like I was like, I gotta get off the floor here. I'm gonna lose all confidence if I can't put one by Kearney here.
Oh, that's awesome. We're going to have some fun here now. We're going to do our word association game. And so basically Jake's going to say one word, and you got to think of someone in the game of lacrosse that sticks out in your mind. You can explain why, or you don't have to. It's up to you.
Okay.
The first word is teammate.
Teammate. I'm going to say Brody Merrill. I think it's just being, relevant to me recently. I think Brody does a good job of maintaining his relationship with all the guys, young to old. Being around for so many years, sometimes you can maybe get tired of it, or you would think that, but Brody does just leads by example quietly every time, and is still awesome with every guy on our team.
Next word is fast.
Can't use yourself.
Can't use myself. I'm not that fast. Quick is better. Who's Drew Belgrave? Going with the Seals here. The guy can run.
All right. The next word is playmaker. And can't use yourself.
Playmaker for me, Sean Evans. Make something happen out of nothing a lot of times.
Next word is coach.
Coach. It's a tough one. Oh, that's tough. There's so many. I have to go Patrick Merrill. I think just brings a different level that I hadn't seen, I guess, before, of intensity and right out of his career kind of thing. Just flew right into coaching and very similar to how I thought he was as a player.
Hilarious.
I'll give it to him. I'll give it to Kearney, I guess. You know what? He's just a goof, man. He doesn't stop, that guy. But he's pretty funny, though.
All right, the next word's lazy.
Can I do the same guy? Lazy. That's tough, too. I don't know. I don't know if there's too many lazy guys out there in the lacrosse world these days. I don't have one for that.
All right, next one is goals.
Goals. Austin Stats. He could score in a lot of different ways, and one of the purest goal scorers I've ever seen, and he's been in the league a year and a bit.
Yeah, he loves to score. You can tell every time. I've never seen someone more excited to score a goal.
Yeah.
Defense.
I'm going to say, mix it up here. I'm going to say Robert Hope. Again, awesome leader. Super vocal. I tell young guys to watch him, how vocal he is. Hard chop. Picks up loose balls. Not the biggest, strongest, fastest. And he's just a very well-rounded player.
Next word is goalie.
It's got to be Vino. Yeah, he's done everything right. I've been lucky to win a few manners with him, so he's an unbelievable goalie.
Yeah, no, I remember when I was playing Peterborough, if I ever scored a warm-up goal on Vino, I was happy.
For sure.
It always made me feel good. The next one is greatest of all time, the GOAT.
Greatest of all time. John Tavares. Yeah, it's got to be. I mean, yeah, just brought a different level to the game, I think, at that time, ahead of his time in ways. Yeah, unbelievable.
The next one is kind of dual. It's passionate / dedicated.
I'm trying to think of different guys here that I haven't said. Passionate / dedicated. I'm going to go with another one in my room. He's Cam Holding. He loves the game of lacrosse, man, like nobody I know, and just cares so much about it. And whatever way that is, coaching, working with the SEALs, on the floor, on the road, he loves it.
And the way I always end this segment, because it's my favorite word, jackass.
It's got to be the same guy. You know what I'm going to say? Bryce Sweeting. It was an absolute beauty, but he's just a goof too.
That's great. We're going to go into your senior career. You mentioned a couple man cups. We'll get into those in a bit. You started actually out of junior. You played, it was kind of full circle again with Pete Vipon with the Brooklyn Redmen at the time. You had a pretty good first full season with them, 60 points in 2011. Can you kind of talk about your transition from junior box lacrosse into the MSL game?
Yeah, for sure. I think, it's a great step for guys getting ready for the pro game. First off, I think it prepares you because you play against those type of guys and goalies and all that. Going with Pete, I was drafted, I think, to Brampton, and I didn't go that first year. They ended up winning the Mann Cup. Kind of hurt, but in the same breath that Pete was someone I was comfortable with. It was a bit closer. I didn't want to move to Brampton for the summer to play. I'd just been kind of moving all over the place years prior. So I wanted to kind of be close. And like Foxy, you were saying before, I would drive up on a Wednesday night to play our home games in Brooklyn and drive back and have to work in the morning. So, I just committed to playing a few games with them. And then the next year I ended up living up this way with my best buddy, Kevin Brownell. He lives in Waterdown as well. And we were travel to games. So, that Brooklyn experience was awesome. We had a ton of guys that were young and coming up. And I think it really prepared us both at our roles and then how to play at that level. So, Pete was again one of my favorite old school coaches, and I learned a lot from him, just kind of about going out and competing, and that's really all it was. It wasn't necessarily X and O's. It was like, hey, throw the ball out and go play kind of thing, and I actually kind of like that style of lacrosse a little bit.
2012, you decided to go play Senior B that year for St. Regis Braves. What was the main decision for you going to play Senior B, and then obviously winning the President's Cup that year too?
Yeah, so that year, I remember, I think it was Callum was maybe talking to me about going out there that summer, and I didn't want to do the drive to Brooklyn or Brampton or whatever it was. I had a job. I was working summer hockey camps in Ottawa with a buddy. for the city of Ottawa. So it just made sense to only drive an hour away. And we had a really good team. Our right side was Lyle Thompson, Miles Thompson, myself, and Callum. So, you know, for Senior B, I thought we were pretty set. We had Heine on the other side. Joe Hall came on for the Pres Cup. Dean Hill and Pete Jacobs. So we were pretty stacked offensively. And I thought, you know, this is a good opportunity to maybe make a run. And I didn't know how many years I was going to play Senior B close to home. So I thought I'll give it a shot. And yeah, we ended up going out to Edmonton and winning the Pres Cup. And pretty cool experience because I thought it was nice to see how much those guys in Akwesasne and from St. Regis like cared so much about that lacrosse, right? They were so dedicated and loved it, even bringing in the guys in, and they just wanted to win. So it was a cool experience that summer.
I remember when I was younger going to watch St. Regis games so I could go watch JT play when he was playing there. That was awesome. I remember, I think I got him to sign a head and he just goes, you know, it's going to wash off. I'm like, I don't care. You're unfair. Just sign my damn head, please.
For sure.
I chased him around the arena.
Yeah. Different lacrosse there, though. I'll tell you that much.
Afterwards, obviously, you came and were traded to Peterborough, where you're playing now. What was that experience like? So first off, let's talk about how you got to Peterborough.
Yeah, so actually I was traded from Brooklyn to Brampton in the Corbeil and Rubish trade. So I wasn't playing that summer, and it was like me and I forget who else. It was like a couple other guys got traded to Brampton. And, you know, I knew I wasn't going to play that summer, and I was kind of at the point where, you know, I want to win if I'm going to go, and Brampton was in the rebuilding phase at that point. And I just called the guy there and I said, hey, listen, like, this is where I'm at. If you can get anything for me, like, I'll probably only go to Peterborough or, you know, probably Nations at the time, whatever, that we're going to make a run for it. You know, I was almost 30 at that time, and this is kind of where I'm at in my career. And if you can get anything for me, nothing against you, just, you know, I want to win, and I don't know how long I'm going to play for. And yeah, so he was good enough to do that. And Tracy Koleski was my coach in New England at the time. I played with Evie in New England at the time. So it was an easy transition for me. I knew a bunch of the guys from before. So that was kind of how I got to Peterborough. And then from there, being able to play Thursday nights in the MEM Center is not so bad of a setup, and you want to stick around the minute you get a taste of that.
Yeah, no, obviously I got to play with you quite a bit there too. And we ended up winning. Well, you won now 3 consecutive. I was with you for 2 of those. Talk about how special that was, and especially I can imagine the 2018 one was pretty cool, winning in Peterborough too. Yeah,
2017 one, as I said, was kind of the biggest grind, I think. You know, Brooklyn and Six Nations and Oakville were all really good that year, and so we had to grind through the playoffs. And then when we got out to New West, we thought, like, I think we were a bit of ahead of ourselves, thinking like, okay, we won the East. We're going to go out there. The competition may be a little bit different. We don't know, right? Maybe that was our mindset, and New West just came out flying on their home hardwood, I'll call it, and took it to us pretty good in the first 2 games, just outworked us and outplayed us. And then I'll never forget, we're in the dressing room after game 2, and I thought, you know, I'd never been a part of a Man Cup before. All those guys had, and our coaches and stuff, and I was thinking, oh, we're going to have to practice tomorrow. We had the day off. We're going to have to watch film, all this. And Paulie Day came in and he said, hey, fellas, take the day off, go hike, go golf, go do whatever. Don't talk about lacrosse. Don't think about lacrosse. Just get your minds right and get back to doing what we're doing when we come back with a fresh start here. And we'll see what comes of it, you know, being confident in what we had. And I thought it was a really cool part of that Man Cup. And then we came back and obviously won 4 straight. So it was a cool little reset and different way of thinking that I thought things were going to happen a little bit differently there. So, yeah, it was a grind. And then 2018, we knew we would host if we won Ontario's. So just to get to that was amazing. And then we kind of had the same thought. We're like, okay, here we go. Maple Ridge coming in, pretty tough defense. We thought it'd be a bit of a slugfest. And first game, I think we won Jonesy buried in double OT to win. And then we kind of got our confidence and went on a roll after that. But winning in Peterborough is a different animal, man. Like, you know, the stadium's packed every night. Guys are tailgating. The bar's got it on the TV. Like, it's absolutely insane, and the best place to play in the summer for sure. So that was really special too, because I could have both sides of my family there, my wife's family, my family, everybody in the building for that one. So they both definitely have different sentiment to me.
Yeah, and then obviously you won it again this year, 2019, then went out west again for that. I can't imagine winning one's hard enough, winning three in a row is pretty incredible. One thing I want you to talk about is, because we've had some people talk about this as well, it's big differences you see between major series and the NLL in terms of the scheduling and just how much, I don't want to say more, but it feels like it's more of a grind playing summer ball than it is in the NLL to a certain degree.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there's two parts to it. Like in the NLL, if you lose a game on a Saturday and you don't get to play till the next Saturday, or you got a bye week, there's a lot of thinking and a lot of probably overthinking and over planning that goes into that. So like I remember I was always a tournament guy too. I love like back to back. You don't do something right the first game, you get to go right back at it. And summer ball is a little bit like that, right? Like where you play on a Tuesday night in Six Nations and you don't have a good one, then you can go Thursday night back in Peterborough and kind of redeem yourself. So I like that part of it. I also think that makes for a grind. I know, you have a week to take care of yourself in the NLL. In the summertime in playoffs, when you're playing best of sevens, are you playing the next day or not, right? It's an absolute grind, and every single guy does that. So I think there's a kind of a respect there that goes on with the grind of winning a Mann Cup. I remember saying after I won my first, like, winning a Stanley Cup must be insane. Like, that was my thought process, right? Playing 82 games and then going 4 best of sevens is absolutely mental to me. That's what was my first thought after winning in 2017, that you have a new respect for that. So that's a big difference. And then, just guys having to work throughout the week too, right? Game days are a lot different in the summer league than they are in the NLL. You're not showing up after grinding a landscaping duty shift of 8 hours and then going to the rink to play, wash the dirt off you on a shower before the game and then get out there. So just a different, I think, grind mentally and physically. But the NLL game, I think everyone brings their best because it is once a week. In the summer, you can have the off night of some guys or some teams, and NLL, it's once a week, so you get their best.
Yeah, certainly. It is still a very good league, and Peterborough and your success has been obvious for the last 3 years. You guys have just dominated teams, and you guys are a great team, so it's well-deserved. We're going to go into a little thing that I saw here. You said Jim Carrey would play you in a movie. Why do you think that?
Oh, well, I think he's hilarious. He's Canadian. Got to give some respect there. I think Jim... maybe I like facial expressions. I like being a goof. I like, my favorite movie is Dumb and Dumber. So, it's natural transition, I think, to put Jim as my character. So, yeah. Or like Mike Myers, too, another Canadian guy who's a goof, too. Like, those are the kind of guys I like and I think would fit me well.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we're going to go Twitter creep. Usually we do some funny stuff, but you're pretty professional and serious guy. So we're going to talk about a tweet that you made. You said Jeff Sawicki made it look too easy and made us Nepean kids want to go to the next level. You tweeted that. Can you kind of talk about the impact that Jeff Sawicki kind of had on your career and a lot of Nepean minor players?
For sure. I think Zawick from day one, I'd go to junior B games, Nepean, like just to watch him. He was lighting the, scoring up for the whole league, playing in Aurelia the odd time for junior A and lighting that up too. And, he wasn't a big guy. He found ways to be creative and score. And I just thought, like, that's the guy I want to be, essentially. Right. And then he went to the NCAA, UMass. He just so many things about him. And I ended up working camps with him, great guy. And I just loved his overall being around the game of lacrosse. So I remember going to Teddy Burgess, I believe, was his stick stringing guy. And I'd go to ask this guy, hey, can you string my stick just like Zawicki's, right? In Ottawa, like at the time, I'd go to Canadian Tire, lift one off the shelf and be like, yeah, I still do. I don't know. So I got leather in my stick like Zawick. And, I really wanted to be him in so many ways. So, and now in hindsight, looking back at some of his clips from pro, the World Championship when he scored the game-winning goal, I'm just like, this guy, could score at will. And he used the ugliest stick going now too in pro. It was like pinched, like unbelievable long. I don't even know how he caught the ball. But he was just so creative and dipsy doodle in front of the net. And again, all those steps that he took, I think really made me want to do that as well. So it was, junior B to junior A to NCAA to pros to Team Canada, coaching, all those different things. And, he's a big reason that I followed the path I did.
You mentioned a little bit there playing at Worlds. Can you talk about playing for Team England and your experience with that?
Scotland.
Team Scotland, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I was amazing. My dad's born in Scotland, so I actually ended up being able to become a dual citizen there. So I'm really not like a import, I guess. I'm a citizen. So it was an amazing experience. I wanted my brothers to join me. They weren't able to, but 2014, we beat out Team Japan to become into the blue group. First time Scotland has came into the blue group in a long, I think ever, I guess. And it was just really cool. Like, I think the whole cultural thing for me was amazing. I remember the guys the first time we met, we had to all wear kilts, and we wear them to every function. We drink out of this, I forget what it's called, like a bowl though. We drink scotch around, you pass it around. There's just really cool team bonding things that they do as a group. It was an amazing experience for me, and I want to get back to playing with them or giving back to Scotland lacrosse in whatever way possible in the future when I'm done playing. But we had some really cool games. Actually almost beat Iroquois in the quarterfinals, lost 10-8 in front of a huge crowd, biggest crowd anybody in Scotland lacrosse has played in front of. So just a wild experience. And also being in Denver, I was able to have my dad and my now wife there. So being able to share that with them was really cool.
Yeah, certainly. We're going to end it on our last segment here. It's our play until the whistle. As you know, there's been some abuse towards officials in the game of lacrosse over the last few years, and Jake and I are trying to kind of bring light to that. And we always ask everybody who comes on who their favorite official is and why.
I guess I'm going to say Mark Ardonio. A couple reasons. I kind of know him through, a couple of mutual connections. So we had met when we were a bit younger. And then I think I just like how he deals with the players in game. I think, he's in constant communication with coaches, players. And I think kind of gets the game. He's been doing it for so long that if you're being unreasonable, he'll tell you. If he thinks he made a mistake, he'll tell you. I just kind of respect how he goes about his business. I think, being a ref is such a thankless job. I can't imagine going through those grinds and getting yelled at all summer, then all winter, then back again all summer. And, those guys take some abuse, and I think we're getting a bit better. Having that dialogue, having them mic'd up, being able to talk to them, it's gone a long way, but I'm certainly a proponent of pushing the respect for the refs, and hopefully it keeps going in the right direction.
Yeah, exactly. You touched on it there. That dialogue between players and officials is something that truly helps the game a lot. And we do appreciate you coming on here and sharing your story with us. And we wish you all the best in your future lacrosse endeavors.
Thanks, boys. And keep this going. This is good stuff to get out there. So thank you.
Thanks, Buck. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Sticks and Picks Lacrosse Podcast. A reminder to check out lacrosseunlimited.com for all your lacrosse needs. Don't forget to follow us on our social media pages on Instagram and Twitter at SticksPicksLax and on Facebook at Sticks and Picks Lacrosse. We are proud to sponsor the 2020 Global Lacrosse Summit, which is being held virtually starting today. You can find all the details on our social media pages for the links to register. There will be 50 lacrosse experts talking all things lacrosse. It is free, but there are limited spots left.